really good technique. I'm going to use that one from now on with all my classes. So thank you all for being here today. It's great to have you. This is the first of a new program we have for the master's program, the colloquium series. For those of you who haven't met yet, my name is Jeff Barnett, and I'm the director of the practitioner master's program and the chair of the master's committee for the psychology department. And one of our goals is to try to really do more for the master's students, create a greater sense of community, and do more activities outside of class. And as some of my students who have you previously know, I try to bribe students with home baked goods to promote a good learning environment, which I think is a form of self-care and psychological wellness. And so yesterday and the day before, I put my wife to work. We made 8 dozen chocolate chip cookies homemade, which is part of her self-care because she loves baking, so that's a good thing. Really, it's really positive. It's helping her. I think there was like a dozen brownies that we were able to bring also. All the brownies didn't quite make it here, but I did leave the cookies alone. So the cookies are making their way around. If they get to the back, then maybe bring them up front. There's some people who got here late who certainly look like they're starving. So the first row here definitely needs some cookies. Thank you, Claire. We appreciate your assistance. So hopefully everyone gets a little something to eat. I would also point out there's going to be an email coming out later in the week that the psychology department is going to have a psychology department master's student appreciation day on Tuesday, October 25th. And we're going to have a table set up with lots of different kinds of food and snacks, treats, beverages and stuff in Maryland Hall on the second floor for the half hour before the 4:30 classes and a half hour before the 6:50 classes. So please feel free to stop by. We're going to have all different faculty baking things and have different treats for you. So hopefully you'll stop by for that. Just because we appreciate you. In terms of the goals for today, I mean, again, we have about an hour, and the hope is to talk a little bit about life as a graduate student. Come on down. I'm going to talk about life as a graduate student and the whole general topic of self-care, promoting psychological wellness, taking good care of yourself, managing and balancing the different stresses. Has anyone noticed any stresses about being a graduate student yet? Has that started already? A couple, maybe? No? Nothing. That's amazing. So no stress. So you have certain challenges and demands of being a graduate student. You have certain stresses, challenges, and demands in your personal life. You already have it. I remember you from last semester in ethics. No more cookies. Some people who have you before like the chocolate chip cookies are waiting for anxiously. So one of the goals is to really consider how might self-care be relevant for you, and how might managing the stresses and demands of being a graduate student and actually having a life outside of graduate school be relevant. Why would this even matter? I mean, who cares, really? Does anyone here actually have an externship or work with clients, things like that? How many people? Raise your hand if you're in an externship now. So, okay, that's good. You can put it down. Now, of those who raise their hands, have any of you ever felt at all stressed out while you were at your externship? Really? Challenging. What are we going to do about it? So I'm not suggesting that's inappropriate or difficult. I would suggest that that means you're a human being and you're living, and you need to maybe have ways of managing stress effectively. But learning about stress management, knowing what your own warning signs are for when you need to take a break or take a step back is really important. And learning how to manage all this throughout your whole, not just your graduate school career, but your entire career. And one of the big things about self-care and promoting psychological wellness is the habits that you create as a graduate student are the habits typically that are going to be the ones that you carry out throughout your whole career. And so one of the worst things you can do is just say, well, I'll start this self-care stuff, this hypothetical, theoretical self-care stuff after I graduate. Why would that not be a good idea? Lashandra, practicing the names.
After you graduate, hopefully you're going to actually go into practice. At that point, it's a little bit too late to kind of go back and take care of yourself. You probably need to.
So once you're already in practice, it might be too late to start learning the habits, patterns, skills, and techniques for promoting your own wellness. If you haven't been doing it for the 2 years you're in grad school, then what might be the consequences of that for results, which would not be very good. So starting now is really a good idea. And it is possible that when you leave graduate school, you would be in practice, you might be working, doing research, you might be in a different setting. Come on in. Come on in, join us. We have loads of seats. Some over here, some over here. Seats along the aisle. So the idea of self-care is basically if you don't take adequate care of yourself, then over time it's going to show, and the quality of the professional services you provide to others are going to deteriorate. You're going to be impacted by that negatively. And so each of us has to take care of ourselves. And there's a whole range of ways people do that we'll talk about. Some are very standard and typical. Some are very creative and innovative we'll talk about. But a lot of what students learn about self-care sounds great in the books, sounds great in theory, but then there's real life. And to actually tie this into your life, to find the time to actually practice self-care might be really challenging. So most students who take classes with me know that my classes are the most important classes in the entire program, and we should do my work first and disregard what those other faculty said. Jen, you can confirm that. Okay, good. So the only problem is you have 3 or 4 or 5 or however many other faculty saying the exact same thing to you. Except I really mean it. You really should ignore them. Like it. So you have multiple demands. I remember when I was in college and in grad school thinking, if only I had one less course, I could do really great at this. And it didn't matter what the semester was. I always felt like I had one too many. It was always too much. And I don't know if it's by design, but there's a lot to do when you're a graduate student in terms of your coursework, clinical work, all the things you have to read. I mean, I would say everyone here probably, you read every article that's ever been assigned, right? No one has that extra pile of, these are things I'd like to read sometime down the road in the future when I have the time. And the pile, as the semesters go on, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And then after a while, it's like, I'm never going to read this nonsense anyway. You just like take it to the recycling bin and you start a new pile. Because there's no way you can do it all. You have to make some very important choices. This is an imperfect system. It's absolutely impossible. You can never be perfect at it. And how do you decide how to use your time, how to manage your time? What are your goals? What are your expectations of yourself? If you have a paper that's due, you say, well, I'll just keep working on it until it's due, and you work on it like hour after hour after hour, or you reach a point where you say, you know what, that's just got to be good enough because I've got other things I have to do. I don't have just one thing that's part of it. And sometimes you have to make really tough choices. When I was in graduate school, I was one of a couple of people in my program who were sort of young, single people right out of college. And we had a number of people who were older and had families. And I used to marvel at, how do they do this? And then after a couple of years, they finally let me know their secret, which was, they say, I've got from this time to work on that paper. That's it. Because before that, I'm doing this, and after that, I'm doing this. I'm trying to sleep, for example. One of those self-care strategies. It's really good in theory. It's a hypothetical one. But it's like, I have this period of time. That's it. I will do what I can during that period of time, and that's it. I don't have extra time. And I found myself being much less efficient than people who were forced to be efficient because they just didn't have the extra time. And then the reality was, for the extra X number of hours I put into it, what did I get? 2 more points than them? Like, was that really worth it? Is that really a good investment? And so to figure out what's the reasonable amount of time to put into this, and then let it go, move on, because you have more in your life than that one thing. Has anyone here ever thought, if only I just